Look, they're not only our future, they are our present. So it's really important that when we talk about what we're talking about, that we ground what we're talking about in these faces, in their futures. Folks, I often say, in this administration, we could brag about, I always say substance over sensationalism. There's substance, whether it's the CHIPS and Science Act, the bipartisan infrastructure plan that's touching every community in this country, the climate provisions under the Inflation Reduction Act that are going to create millions of jobs. I want to go from policy to people. When we talk about those things, think of their faces. They're the beneficiaries of it. So it's really important for me to ground everything in the potential of our students and the opportunities that we're providing to our students. I know some of them recently graduated or are graduating. Raise your hand if you've graduated already. One. Raise your hand if you're going to graduate very soon. All right, let's give them a round of applause. And one thing that I learned a little while ago talking to students, you learn a lot when you talk to students. One thing that I learned is in this community, there's no such thing as senioritis. Right? See that? Look at it. No, I really hope you recognize how important this day is for this community. Our country should be proud and hopeful about the future because of tremendous accomplishments like Ulster Boces at I Park 87. Today we're going to shovel dirt, where tomorrow students will build batteries and windmills. They'll run cables for fiber optics. They'll package dairy and produce films. Today we meet on ground where tomorrow futures will be forged. Thousands of new careers in a workforce that's built to solve 21st century challenges like transitioning to clean energy future. And this will happen in ways that can sustain lives and economies right here in the Hudson Valley. The Ulster Boces Career Pathways Academies, the Sustainable Ulster Workforce Innovation Center, and the Ulster Boces Career and Technical Center, they are transformational. The investments and the partnerships that make today possible are part of this region's story, part of the state's story. They're a shining example of this administration's goals to redefine career pathways and career success. For far too long, I'm speaking of the choir here, for far too long in this country, we've normalized a narrow pathway to opportunity. In this country, we've had a four-year college or bust mentality that has really not served our students well. Here at Ulster Boces, you've been breaking out of that mentality long before you've broken ground here today. You've got high school students earning college credits through partnerships with local colleges and universities. 144 local businesses involved in curriculum development. That's powerful. 144 local businesses. More than 200 young professionals are in paid internships. So basically, you're doing the things that we're trying to get done across the country. I visited 48 states in the last 3 years, and you are further along the continuum in development, where we're trying to introduce a lot of these concepts. You're getting it done already, and you're really leading the path. You're offering professional development workshops for your educators. Your programs are future-focused and inclusive, full of programming for students with special needs, and a focus on equitable access and the development of the whole student. This center is a bright new addition to the upstate New York region, a dynamic place, and one of President Biden's 4 new workforce hubs. Communities around the country receiving targeted investment and commitments from industry as part of our Investing in America agenda. And I visited some other, I talked to the Vice President of Intel that brought $2 billion into Columbus, Ohio, because he knew that the education program was going to feed into Intel. I was in Idaho speaking to Micron there, and they had an education plan, and they're bringing $15 billion into the local economy. Look, this works. And it works in places where our education leaders and our county leaders and our congressional leaders understand the important work, foundational work that education has. We have to evolve our systems to meet the demand of today and tomorrow, and that's what you're doing here. Companies are investing hundreds and billions in this region in recognition not only its strength and potential in the semiconductor manufacturing, but the strength and potential of its educators and training providers as well. Make no mistake, career and technical education is economic development. It really is. Yeah. When I was a commissioner of education in Connecticut, I would tell the governor, a good education system is your best economic lever. And I mean that. And now with the policies at the federal level and the hundreds of billions of dollars available for workforce development, it's really clear. You want to engage students? Give them options as they're coming up. You want to keep students in your community, building your community, and not leaving? Give them roots through your education system to intern, to really understand what role they have in the community. This is economic development, but it's also community development. We want these students to continue to grow this community. How do we do that? We get them early and show them the role that they have in the development of this area. And that's what you're doing here. That's what we're celebrating. That's why when we talk about policies or grants or this or that, we're talking about these students giving back, coming back, and being looked at as the future of this community. We need schools and training programs to evolve as quickly as the demands of today's workforce. We know we can't wait to open the microchip plant or the auto body shop or the restaurant and then start talking about workforce training. Here in New York, it's state policy that students can earn credit for graduation for work-based learning activities. Here in New York State, you've built accountability standards for college and career readiness. Commissioner Rosa, in the conversations that we've had, one of the things I've really appreciated is how you're able to see the vision across K-12, higher education, the business community. In a lot of places, we're developing that understanding. Oftentimes in education, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. We have a K-12 system that doesn't always talk to the higher ed system. And then we have workforce partners and labor who are seeking employees, but they're not connected to the colleges or they're not connected to the K-12 system. And we have opportunities here. Our vision is to lead the world in this space. We're going to make things here in America. And when we do that, we have to make sure that our systems are talking to each other. Betty gets that. There's an interdependence here that I think is a model for the country. The relationships that are forged in between events like these are the ones that make sure these things keep happening. All this reflects the U.S. Department of Education's highest aspirations for career and technical education. And as Congressman said, this is a purple issue, man. This is a purple issue. There is no partisanship here. That's a waste of time. That's hurting them. We need to recognize this is good for everyone. To make this happen, as leaders, all of you have had to break out of silos and collaborate in tension. At the Ulster Boces Ulster Boces, employers help develop training and curriculum so students have both the skills and the connections to transition right into family-sustaining jobs. That kind of partnership should be a model for high schools, for career and technical education centers, for colleges, for local leaders, and businesses across the country. Look, when I get invited to different places, we look to see, what do they bring to the table that's unique and different? I think the infrastructure that you have, the behind-the-scenes infrastructure, the relationships, all of you in the room have a role here. That, to me, is what I want to lift up in my visit today. That's what I wish we could bottle and share across the country. The work that you do behind the scenes, right? To make sure those relationships are there, to make sure that the curriculum is influenced by what you believe the needs are, the skills are. These are things that you have developed that I want to see across the country. We live in a time where too many leaders claim that they alone could solve our country's challenges. But as I said before, we need systems, not superheroes. We need systems that can outlast the people that are leading it now, and I believe you have that here. What you built here is a system that's going to transform your local economy and change countless students' lives. Be proud of that. That's worth celebrating. And then stay in the conversation with each other, with your business partners and the administration. We want to hear about the successes. We want to hear about best practices. We want to know their stories 4 or 5 years down the road. We want to hear about the lessons learned, the challenges that you've had. You know, it reminds me a little bit of when we were reopening schools across the country, right? We were all tasked with reopening schools. And when we were doing it in Connecticut, the districts that were most successful were the districts that learned from someone else's mistakes. We have an opportunity here to lead the world in this work. We have the opportunity to really engage students in ways that we haven't. Like, let's face it, we need to evolve our schools, evolve our high schools to make sure that this is the norm, not the exception. And this is an opportunity for the rest of the country to learn from you. Know that this chapter of the Hyde Park 87 story, of the Hudson Valley story, will be the best one yet. I want to congratulate you and I want to thank you. And before I turn it over to Dr. Shanker, I recognize that I was told by one of his students and one of his fans that he's also a karate coach. Did you know that? So in addition to being a sharp dresser, a great leader, I think part of the reason why people can't say no to him is because he knows karate. And, you know, I talk a lot about systems and superheroes. That if we rely on superheroes, then when the superhero leaves, does the system fall apart? True success happens when you have superheroes that know how to build systems. And that's what you have here. That's why I'm proud to be here. Really excited to see this work develop. Really excited to be here to celebrate this groundbreaking. And I look forward to the continued success here. Let's give it up for our students.